Blatantly stated that the IT sector should be working to serve U.S. foreign policy goals. And, of course, he mentioned the Russians.
What we ought to do with regard to the Russians is retaliate, seriously retaliate against the Russians. And these tech firms could be helpful in having us, giving us a way to do that.
The tech sector is private. It's supposed to only serve its users and its shareholders. But recently, more and more, it's starting to look like Silicon Valley is a wing of the U.S. government. Caleb Maupin, RT, New York.
Well, on the back of that, U.S. journalist Derek Brose warns that people should be careful with their private information online when it comes to using the services of those tech giants.
It's worth noting and understanding that when you search and you use Google, when you use social media tools like Facebook and these other softwares and these other types of apps, that they often are very forthcoming with your information. They're willing to give your information over to the U.S. government without much of a fight. Some of them do put up a fight occasionally, but for the most part, they work with them very regularly, and that's something you should take into consideration and perhaps pursue alternatives. Google is not the only search engine that exists. There's better alternatives. There's better alternatives to Facebook. There's better alternatives to all these different companies, and at some point, the people should say, if you want to support the U.S. government's surveillance and the U.S. government's push towards a police state, then I'm not going to buy your product anymore. I'm not going to use your product anymore. It really will and could be problematic, especially with the social media monitoring of immigrants and really the social media monitoring of all Americans and in foreigners and people abroad. It has implications beyond just whether or not the U.S. and these private industries are working together. They're definitely working together, whether it's for profit or for something more nefarious. We don't know at this point, but I would say this is something more people should be paying attention to. There's always been private industry working for governments. That's kind of a standard practice. But I do think that what we're seeing is this relationship between big business, corporate America, and the U.S. government. It's getting further and further enmeshed until they're becoming just one single entity.